One, all Brees, all Saints, all night, and afterwards, number 9 talked about history.
It's hard for me to reflect too much right now just because my career's not done. There are still goals to be accomplished. There's still challenges to be met. And so I'm still very focused on that. And yet when something like this happens and I can, you know, there's so many people that are responsible for that can be a part of that, it makes me happy. You know, it makes me proud and it makes me extremely grateful for the opportunity to play this game, to have played it as long as I've been able to play it, to have wound up here in New Orleans, which you all know that story. So it's just been an unbelievable journey, and I'm just so grateful.
The thing that's inspiring most is knowing what's most important to him and that common goal that we have relative to winning another championship. And that's all the actual hardware, you know, the different bats and the different, those all get dust. But it's about these memories right now with, you know, someone like that is as special as that is tonight and what he's accomplished. That's what you miss.
And Brees stands alone at the top of the NFL's career passing yards list. So much to say about Drew Brees. We could go on and on through all of the angles, and we will. All shows he certainly deserves it. But in honor of Brees, let's make this discussion a little bit more challenging, guys. Right. There's some whiteboards on the table. It is not, in fact, yet Wednesday. But instead, let's just sort of try, as we might, to sum up the legacy and living legend that is Drew Brees in 5 words or less.
Okay.
5 words or less?
5 words or less.
Make sure
you want to take a crack at it, Nate?
Yeah, I got it. All right. Is it on me?
Yeah, sure is.
Let's go. You guys go with me first. Sheesh. I'm going breezy like a Sunday morning.
What do you mean?
The Commodores, man, Lionel Richie.
I know the song.
Well known song. I'm just saying, well, what it is as much as he put in, effort as he put in, the aches, the pains, the shoulders, the elbows, all the doubt, leaving San Diego, going to New Orleans, saving everything. And by everything, I mean saving a city that people had really discarded. And after the hurricane, this was one of the states that everybody rooted for, and he came and put this city, this state, on his back. But he made it all look easy like Sunday morning. Because he doesn't complain, doesn't talk about it, never talks about his injuries, never shifts the blame, never points the finger. So Drew, like, I feel you. I know you. I played against you. It's not as easy as it looks. It's like one of my favorite movies, Pursuit of Happiness, when they asked Will, was it as easy? And he dropped a tear and he said, no, it wasn't. You made it look easy, brother, but it wasn't, man. Respect.
Very cool. I love Drew Brees' story so much because there's so many different twists and turns the NFL history could have done if Drew Brees had done something different. Yeah. So he hurts his shoulder in the final game of the season, and they have Phillip Rivers drafted, okay? And Drew Brees has to decide, what am I going to do? The Chargers say, you're no longer the future. We're going to Phillip Rivers. That's one spot. All right, the next one is he goes to Miami, and they do a physical on him, and they look at his shoulder, and the doctors say, no. Nick Saban's the coach. Nick Saban says, I want Drew Brees. The doctors say, we don't advise it. They signed Dante Culpepper. There are no other teams left except New Orleans, post-Katrina New Orleans. Drew Brees takes a ride with Sean Payton and says, well, I got nowhere else to go. I'll come here. His career to me is the butterfly effect. Because if he stays in San Diego, do we never have Phillip Rivers as a Chargers legend? If he goes to Miami, does Nick Saban never leave NFL and go back to Alabama?
Okay.
If he doesn't go to New Orleans, what do the Saints look like the last decade without Drew Brees as their quarterback? So the butterfly effect, if you just take Drew Brees as the middle piece of it and then have all these different branches of NFL history, so many different sliding door scenarios, so many different ships in the night. But guess what? He's in the perfect place, the perfect city, and he's got the perfect coach with him. Drew Brees, hats off to you.
Wow. Without Drew Brees, we may never know Tua. You know
That's true.
It's crazy. It makes the butterfly effect. When someone does something incredible and they're being hero worshipped all over the world as they should, somebody needs to bust their chops and bring them down a little bit, all right? Drew Brees has done a lot of great things. Drew Brees has done a lot of commercials, a lot.
Good for him.
So good for him, absolutely. So my words for Drew Brees would be, for fast, non-drowsy relief, And I think it's perfect because if you bring it back to football,
yes,
Drew Brees games are always electric. There's always so fun to. They're usually in a dome. There's usually a ton of scoring. Drew Brees is always the guy you hate playing against in fantasy. You never draft in fantasy because you always miss them by one player. You're never drowsy. If you're feeling a little drowsy, watch Drew Brees for fast, non-drowsy relief. That's it, my man.
Love it.
I don't have a whiteboard, but I would probably put best yet to come. He's, there's talk about what his legacy is, stacking him up against other quarterbacks who have rings. This team, sitting pretty at 4-1, just got Ingram back, and Drew Brees is playing the best football we've seen him play right now, with maybe the best receiver that he's ever had to play with as far as raw talent's concerned in Mike Thomas.
And I'll say this, think about what he's done as a football player in his athletic career. Imagine what he's going to do in the next 40 years of his life when he puts down the ball.
Governor Brees.
He's an amazing dude.
We love him, Drew Brees. Congrats to you. But let's spin it forward now as we are a couple of sleeps away from Thursday night action here on the East Coast. The Giants hosting the Super Bowl defending Eagles. Let's bring in our guy, Mike Garafolo. You've seen him all over the network. He's on Good Morning Football Weekend as well. Mike, the Eagles, tough loss to the Vikings on Sunday. Not the way they wanted to start this season. And they got worse news on Monday. What's going on with this run game?
Yeah, worse news and surprising news. Jay Ajayi, he did leave Sunday's game at some point with a knee injury. I mentioned last hour that it was announced that he was questionable to return. Actually, it was never even announced. It was just mentioned on their broadcast by their sideline reporter, Howard Eskin, that he had left the game while pass protecting. Turns out on Monday, after an MRI, it was learned that Ajayi tore his ACL. So the Eagles, without their lead back, who was so good in the Super Bowl last year and was the guy talking after the game on Sunday about how we have to run the football more. Well, if they're going to do that, and Doug Peterson did say that he agreed with that, they're going to have to do it with Corey Clement, Wendell Smallwood, Darren Sproles eventually, though it doesn't look like Sproles is going to be back for this game Thursday against the Giants, and maybe even a little bit of Josh Adams. But I wouldn't discount the possibility of them potentially making a move and bringing someone in from the outside. Remember, this is the time in Carson Wentz's career where he is making a rookie salary, not a veteran salary. We've seen what the Rams have done with Jared Goff. They've gone all in. The Eagles know that there is a window right now, so I would not be shocked if Howie Roseman at least tries to make a move. And I mentioned to you that previously, since he jumped back into the lead role here a couple of years ago when Chip Kelly left, that he had checked in with the Bills about the possibility of bringing LaShawn McCoy back. I'm told those trade talks did not go anywhere. Maybe he revisits them in the weeks to come here.
They see the window, they might go for it. Wouldn't be surprised as well. Thank you so much, Mike Garafolo, for keeping us up to date on everything going on with the Eagles. And Kim Jones will be joining us with the Giants ahead of Thursday night action, which you can see right here on NFL Network. Let's talk Eagles. Biggest concern. We talked a lot about the Vikings, giving them their due credit yesterday. What's going on with this team?
I have 5 things that I'm concerned about with this team. Very quickly. Lane, Peters, Kelsey, Brooks, Wisniewski, the 5 offensive linemen for the Eagles. You can have your Carson Wentz and your Nick Foles. That was the heart and soul of that Super Bowl team. That's where it started. Fletcher Cox is a great player. Those 5 guys, switched out a few of them last year. They're not playing well. If you look up the numbers, I won't even get into them. The quarterbacks are getting hit a lot more than they were last year. It's not, there's no dog up front, and I'm not saying that to be cute with the mask. There's just, the dog isn't there, and the numbers aren't there, and the protection isn't there, and the takeaway image of the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season for the Eagles is Carson Wentz getting rocked last week, the ball going up in the air, and Linval Joseph running away with it. The offensive line needs to reclaim the swagger and attitude of this team. It starts with them.
I've always said the Achilles heel to me with the Eagles was their secondary, that they got back with a little smoke and mirrors, some scotch tape last year, and even the Patriots lit them up in the Super Bowl. They just scored more points.
Yeah.
This year it's coming back to hurt them. I think the secondary and the pass defense, and you want to look at a couple plays here. I mean, the first play from scrimmage for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when they play them. Here we go, deep to Deshaun Jackson. It's tough to dig out of holes when right away things are happening like this. And then how about the end of the game against the Titans? It's 4th and 15. Marcus Mariota is throwing for 344 yards. Watch the secondary here. Just keep an eye on how those cornerbacks are let up. They've got to go 15 yards for a first down. If they keep them within 15 yards, they win the game. Well, did someone forget about that? Because the marker's right there, and he went 16 yards and got it. This is troublesome to me because in the NFL today, it's all about passing. It's all about aerial attack. It's all about offense. And if the Eagles can't stop anybody, and we saw Thielen and Diggs on Sunday go nuts, well, then they're not going to be playing in February when they were last year.
Digging themselves into holes here on defense, but how about the offense not getting early leads? That's what they did last year, especially at this time. It wasn't even that they were beating teams. They were crushing teams, putting up big numbers. They're averaging less than 2 points in the first quarter a game this season. They have 7 total points scored this whole season combined in the first quarter. Where did that go? They were #1 in the red zone last year, converting 65% of the time. They're 18th this year. A lot of it, I'm sure, has to do with losing LeGarrette Blount. He was such a huge factor at the goal line. And red zone target, Trey Burton, also not part of this. I said it going into the season, it doesn't feel like the same team. You don't have DiFilippo, you don't have Reich, and the biggest piece that might be missing, in my opinion, might be that something to play for. They had that chip on their shoulder, that mentality. It was everywhere. It's all we talked about. I know that last season at this time it was, dog mask worth the thing yet, but they had this character and this thing that united them, and I don't know if they have it anymore. I haven't seen it on the field.
Yeah, you mentioned DiFilippo, you mentioned Reich, and I'm going to talk about the offense. In order to have those explosive games and to score points, you got to be explosive on first down. You got to be explosive on second down. That leads me to third down. Third down through 5 weeks last year, they were leading the NFL. That means it was manageable because they were so explosive on first and second down. Now they find themselves in situations where they're sitting here like this saying, oh, now it's 3rd and long. How am I going to manage this? And they're getting rid of the ball more times than they're keeping the ball. So I'm looking for these guys to fix their third down efficiency. The mark of any good offense is either dominating on third down or putting yourself where it's 3rd and short on most games. So for me, that's where this team struggles at, and that's on the offensive side of the ball.
They say when you win a Heisman Trophy and before the bowl game, sometimes there's something called the banquet circuit, where you go on the circuit and every week you're eating a steak and you're having a salad, and every night there's a little bit of that going on with the Eagles too, I think. The banquet circuit, where we've got a lot of books, we've got a little speeches, we've got a lot of
commercials,
TV appearances, commercials. It's hard to avoid.
They enjoyed it too much or something?
I don't know. It's hard to avoid enjoying.
It's hard to avoid the fruits of
There's
your
a
labor.
reason teams don't repeat.
They deserved it.
It's hard.
Sure, they did.
Are you worried about them?
Yeah. I can't say I'm not. I mean, they go 2-4 on Thursday night, losing to a bad Giants team. So, yeah, I am.
They won 2 games, both those wins against 1 and 4 teams.
Hey, listen, Halloween is
They got work
almost
to do,
here.
guy.
Go shopping for some masks. Go find that
Something.
find
The
something.
whole suit.
Maybe it's not being an underdog, but go find some type of mask and get that swagger back. Get that edge back.
To add to Garofalo, would you be surprised if they made a move?
No, but I don't think Le'Veon Bell's the answer to this team. They've got a locker room. They're good.
There we go. All right, and they split the backfield last year and had a lot of success with it, so hopefully they can make it.